searched a minicab driver whom they suspected of dealing drugs. A crowd gathered and scuffles broke out. A man was arrested. By now there were more than 100 people here and the mood was ugly. The police called for reinforcements and then all hell broke loose.
As the fighting intensified, Railton Road became the front line of a running battle. Bricks and petrol bombs were thrown at the police, who called for thousands of reinforcements. The rioting went on well into the night. It was only when fire hoses were turned on the crowds that the police began to regain control. The Brixton Riots caused £6.5 million worth of damage. 450 people were injured, hundreds of buildings burned and vehicles destroyed.
Was Brixton preventable? And can it be prevented from happening again?
Amid a fierce debate about the causes and consequences, Britain was forced to look hard at its attitude to race and multiculturalism.
Quite clearly, we've got to limit any further mass immigration into this country, and if any people wish to return to their country of ethnic origin, they should be encouraged to do so.
The police should recognise that, in fact, it's not on to treat people in what seems to many blacks in Brixton as an oppressive and unjust manner.
Over the next few months, more riots broke out across the country. Toxteth in Liverpool, Moss Side in Manchester, Chapeltown in Leeds.
A few months later, Mrs. Thatcher's Employment Secretary, Norman Tebbit, witheringly dismissed attempts to blame the rioting on unemployment.
I grew up in the 30s with an unemployed father. He didn't riot. He got on his bike and looked for work, and he kept looking till he found it.
But Britain in the 80s was a very different place from Britain in the 30s, a much more fragmented, individualistic society in which people no longer felt a strong sense of loyalty to their local community. And yet, you know, the surprising thing, it was precisely that sense of community spirit that the Brixton Riots did much to revive.
In the aftermath of the riots, local politicians made a concerted effort to regenerate the area. And Lambeth Council commissioned a series of murals designed to foster pride in the local neighbourhood.
In a decade when people all over the country were carving out new identities for themselves, these murals represented a very different vision of Britishness, tolerant and inclusive, a country of all creeds and all colours. And in that sense, I think it's these murals, far more than the televised images of fighting and looting, that really held the key to Brixton's and Britain's future. Although not the zombie on the end. I think that's actually a bit creepy.